Well, welcome. If you're scrolling, you can stop right now and join us for a live conversation. I'm going to be talking. My name is Michael Heath. I'm going to be talking with my good friends Paul Madore and Matthew Rhodes. Both are Mainers and both have extensive experience in politics in Maine and also in the broader United States. Matt is the leader of New England's John Birch Society. So we're very honored to have your input here today, Matt. Welcome. And Paul's joining us from his home in Lewiston, Maine. And welcome, Paul.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd like to step back a little bit. Matthew, would you be willing to give that short narrative as a basis for why we're talking about this topic, this conversation? I think you really, Michael will ask me, do you want to have a segment? You want to go live? You want to do something? You want to go on a rant? And I don't think rant's an exaggeration, but I have a big rant about what you just said. And I agree unequivocally with your assessment. So I'm not in disagreement, but I want to add a context that I think is absolutely critical to what you're saying. And I'm going to be rude here. So Mike has known me for 30 years. I've yet to do anything to offend this guy. And Matthew, you may not be as resilient.
No, that's okay. I believe it or not, I'm pretty tough. I'm originally from New Jersey, and now I live in Maine. And you got to be tough to live in Maine, because people here tell you just like it is, and they cut no corners in doing so. So what
Paul is referencing here is we had a discussion before I went live, and Matt just finished a live stream, which is 20 minutes long, and you can find that on the YouTube channel where this is broadcasting live right now and where it will be archived. You can also find it at michaelheath.tv, michaelheath.tv, in case YouTube does its usual thing and censors, blocks, or deletes my content. But so Matt summarized his earlier live stream, and go ahead, Matt. I'll listen for a third time. Go ahead.
Well, I hope that I can do it, say it, as well as I did that time. And that's not a brag on myself. However, this is something, a path, something that I've been beating for a very long time, is that, we don't exist very well in a world where man has lost his cosmological relevance to a creator. And when we lose that, our significance in the universe to God, we look at, the Psalms, and it says, "What is man that thou art mindful of him, O Lord?" And that question has to be asked of all of us. But when we are now at a point, a technocratic world, there's been 7 stages of American thought, the thought theater of who we are. But we are now what is basically a quantifiable animal. And nothing is going to be solved. We're not going to have any answers coming forward with us being looked at as an economic being. The New World Order, the people that are in control, the people that have money have figured this out since the time of Newton, that you can create a psychology, a belief system. You can, I'm not saying this as correctly as I'd like to, but once you create a new ethos for human beings, and we are an animal that buys, sells, borrows, what we eat, what we wear. Once you do that to him, then he's a manageable animal, and we're not going to win. We're not going to move forward as people while that happens, because that's contrary to our created purpose. We have to change our ontological purpose, and if we don't, there's going to be other people that are going to change that for us. So moving forward, what worldview do we want to have? The worldview is going to have to change. We're going to have wrestle with these questions about creation, about why we're here and who we are as people and what our purpose is, because our purpose is definitely not to support and finance the New World Order or a Federalist bank and wealthy people. We're going to have to change our identity as people. So that's enough.
Right.
And I hope that made that very clear to you. Do you guys. So.
It did, but I'm still left with the same. I'm going to try to not go on a rant. That didn't happen in a vacuum, Matt.
No,
this does not happen in a vacuum, and there are very powerful forces
yes,
that have a great deal, that have had a tremendous impact, almost to the extent we could have literally blown up the entire universe. And that's Christ came into the world. God sent his only beloved son to die for us. And that has produced tremendous fruits, lasting fruits. That's the powerful, hold on. That's the powerful force that is left to define and contend with the very essence and truth of what you just said.
Well, the first cosmological shockwave, if you really want to be technical about it, was the angels crying out to God, saying, "I will not serve." And that idea of pride has to be addressed, because it's shot through all of man's existence.
It has been addressed.
I will not serve a lesser being.
It has been addressed. I'm going to speak to you in the present, not in the past. In the present.
What I'm talking about is like where we are now. These shockwaves keep happening, and they represent a shift in where we've been going over a very long period of time. And that was just metaphorically one of those shifts. The first major shift, in my opinion, was the Protestant Reformation. And the second one would be Copernicus's publishing his works, and then Galileo, and then the fourth would be Newton. And so we have those events happening all within the space of probably 100 years, maybe more or less. And that represented a massive psychical shift in how we looked at the universe. And so, but in the background of all this is this idea of not serving, is this God being dethroned from our reference point in the universe. So anyway.
Sure. Well, I would reaffirm that Christ has not been dethroned, in spite of all the Obamas that were willing to, with such audacity and recklessness, to say that the United States is no longer a Christian nation. The United States is still very much a Christian nation. So that work is in play right now. All of that you've just described is in play. And this cataclysmic occurrence that you've just defined is not the only force that has shaped man. And man is still being shaped in his image and likeness. And so we have to ask ourselves, where do we stand in this battle between good and evil?
That should be the question. That's the question that we need to return to. But for the largesse of humanity, we're still wrestling with that. The amount of people that actually see God as the center of their lives is very small. It's questionable about.
Absolutely not. I disagree with you categorically on that. Categorically, Matthew, where have you been? Have you been practicing your faith for the past 30 years, 40 years?
Of course I have. Here's what I'm telling you. There is what the autism, which is AOUGHT, versus what it actually is. And the largesse of the American people do not find Christ and his church is really moral relativism. Christianity, because of sola fide and sola scriptura, the Bible becomes what is relevant to what is being defined by a modern world. I may not like this, but this is what it's become.
Well, it sounds like you fenced yourself right in. Where do you fit? Where do you fit in the bigger picture, Mike? Do you put yourself in that minority or the majority of people who don't believe in God?
I'm looking at the larger picture of everybody. I'm standing outside of it and looking at what the general population believes. This isn't personal to me at all. This is not about me at all. This is, if we wanted to talk about me, that would be a private on, but this is in general what I find around me and people that I talk to, and what you see happening with the thought processes in the average American church. We do have a problem with the American church. We have a problem with the American church in terms.
Well, that's another matter. That's a matter that exists for today.
That's a matter of what we're talking about. We're not talking about me. We're not talking about what I'd like things to be.
No, I'm talking about the church. You refer to the church. That's not you.
Right.
It's not me either. So thank God for that.
And you're absolutely correct to say, as a Christian, we can never say that Christ has ever been dethroned. However, Christ has been dethroned in the hearts of Americans all across our country. And that's a big question. Like, how do we restore that? And so what are we looking at? Are we looking at creating a new gimmick to get people? How do we reevaluate or reclaim a Christian universe, a Christian world thought? And the answer is actually very simple, and that's my point to all this. Our who we are cannot be defined by worldly measures, and it cannot be defined about whether or not we're an economic animal. And so that's what's really important. Are we here to buy, sell, and amass wealth?
Absolutely not.
Right. Or are we here to serve one another? And so that's the question on both sides, because if we don't do that as a Christian nation, then somebody else will do that for us, and they will define who we are. So we have lost our identity in what our primary purpose is. And so we have to go back to the
Yeah, we have not.
Well,
when you say we, that's you and I. And we have not.
Talking about the largesse of the Western world, not me and you and people in this room. I'm talking about or maybe the viewers, but I'm talking about the largesse of the Western world. What is our identity? Who are we? And that is very simple. The Catechism tells us to love, know, and serve God, be with Him together in heaven.
Of course,
forever.
I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
We have to reassert that in our lives personally.
Through action, through word and deed.
So we're not going to get out of this unless we become that example. So why are we here? Are we here to watch football for 7 hours on Sunday? Or can we take those 75,000 people that to get together at Washington Redskins Stadium and do something useful? And all the answers of charity that exist that again, the government is going to try to solve these problems for us. The devil will provide answers for the world if we don't provide them and show them. Right?
Well, that's what you just said there is misdirected,
No.
because government is not going to do it for us. Government's going to allow us to do it. The very fruits of our democracy, our republic, is that we have the ability to bring all people to Christ.
Right.
And that's underway.
Yeah, and we do have that, and but we're not doing that, and that's unfortunately.
No, I disagree with that. We are doing it.
Okay.
Why is it so fatalistic? What have you been doing for the past 56? How old are you, Matt?
All right, I'm 58, but I'm watching. So you're telling me that you see Christian communities feeding the poor? You're telling me?
Yes, I do. Sure, I do.
Yeah,
absolutely, sure.
Okay,
yes.
Without the help of the federal government, without the aid of federal
without the help of the federal government, it's happened right down here in the Basilica.
Okay.
They have 5 food trucks in the parking lot,
Correct.
full of canned goods, and they bring them out into the communities every day.
That's right, but that's still not as extensive as it was, or our welfare system wouldn't be as large as it is, and we wouldn't have people living on the street.
Well, that's being reduced
right.
As we speak.
That's correct.
Now listen,
and that's the world, and that's the world we should be going back to. And so the question is how do we get other people to reject the government control, the government answer, the technocratic government, and move back to bringing Christ back into people's lives? And we're going to do that by showing
the battle is on. The battle is underway. No question about it. Where do we fit in all of that? Where do you and I and Mr. Heath here fit in all of this? And I think that's what brings us together. This is the kind of glue that brings us together. What can we do to aid and abet the kingdom of God here today?
That's right. It's called the restoration of Christ the King. And then so when we look at what our purpose is, we look at the Catechism. So if our purpose is to know, love, and serve God, be with Him together in heaven, then the money should serve that purpose. And so we look at the fact that usury has basically is allowed, even though it's illegal in most states. So we allow usury. We participate in usury as Christians.
Right.
We have a long way to go.
Right.
We have a long way to go. This is not fatalistic. This is just to say that, and this goes back to what we were talking a little bit about, what's going on with our public schools, and how people are not defending our children. Parents who call themselves Christians, I mean, they probably go to church. However, they're okay with their child pooping in a litter box and having their child's identity defined. So what are we not doing? Why are we not afraid? Why are we not afraid to civilization? This is happening. Litter boxes are being put into public schools. And so let's, that Oh, and then here we got Megan says most definitely will step in and do it for us. My point to this, Paul, is not to say that Christians aren't doing their own work, but at what point in time did we forget to defend the kingship of Christ? And that's not saying I'm right or that somebody else is weak. I'm just saying.
Well, either you're right or you're wrong. Which one is it?
Well, no, because I'm saying that we have to let's start out with the questions, because the questions are more important than the answers. How can we do that? How is this going to happen? And what is it going to look like when it does happen? And it's going to happen through our example.
It starts by the command we have from God is to love and be fruitful. And I think it starts in the home. And I, for one, in spite of all my failures and faults, and I'm not making this personal, but I'm not going to sit here and talk like we've got 50 yards of dung piled on top of us. We're all free to live. And we're all free to live under and within God's command. And that's happening as we speak. Just a small point I want to break out. 10,000 people entered the church, the Catholic Church in France, just this year alone. 10,000 or new Christians were baptized and confirmed in the Catholic Church today, just in this 1 year. Now, I know that's a drop in the bucket. I understand that. And that's what you're waiting to say right now. That it's probably just...
No, I'm not. Because I'm not fatalistic as you think I am.
Well, what you are saying is very fatalistic. Extremely. No. It's actually dark.
Well, it probably feels fatalistic to you because it feels scared.
It doesn't feel. It is. I hear it.
Yeah, it's just a daunting task. And it's a daunting task that we must become aware of, that in order to have proper solutions. And the proper solutions is that, we don't walk around in a life of usury and materialism.
Well, no, we work to
right.
Have you ever heard of the Pilgrims of St. Michael?
What's that?
Have you ever heard of the Pilgrims of St. Michael? I have been working with the Pilgrims of St. Michael for the past 30 years,
right,
to expose the usury. Are you doing that? Is Mike doing it? Mike?
Well, I've been working in my own way, but this isn't a personal assessment. I certainly don't. I'm not here to display my resume or to prove myself in any way. But I'm sorry that if you feel that anything is fatalistic or maybe.
Well, there's no light on the other side. It's just darkness. You're bringing all the darkness forward and asking us to prove if there's light, and I'm giving you the proof.
Well, I'm very aware of the light. However, so the question is, and that's what we started this program about, is the question is how do we combat these things that are definitely happening around us, and in an effective way, without it looking like as if though it's some sort of fad or things like that. Everything's a fad. Oh, we're going to do this, and people get excited about it for a while, just like in the Bible. The seed gets planted on fertile ground. So we have, as Christians, have an obligation to save Western civilization. It comes down.
Amen.
And so everything that we can do. All right. So let me just give you an immediate example. You start a program. There was a guy down in Florida, a friend of mine, and he was a multimillionaire, and he was setting up food camps underneath the overpasses all throughout.
Right.
He was shut down. And the guy, and this
by whom? By whom?
By the government, FBI, whoever.
Because, sure.
So we are right now. We're at war with a faction of humanity that wants to control charity, and that's a real, not dark, not fatalistic, real, actual thing.
Yes, but it's out of context. What you're saying here is out of context. It's totally out of context. There could be a food kitchen right down the street from this guy.
And
hold on, don't interrupt. Hold on.
Okay. You
could have a food kitchen right down the street from him, run by half a dozen churches. They may have a problem with health, with health and the welfare under a overpass. Well, they might very well be a problem with that, but it doesn't mean that you don't have a food kitchen right down the road, run by the largest parish. Let's take it St. John Cantius or something more local, perhaps, at the church we have now at St. Joseph's, the oratory that we've opened at St. Joseph. There's the manifest difficulty they have right now is not enough seats. And they collected $16,000 in the basket last week, and And part of that is going to go to feed the poor. What you're saying is totally out of context.
Oh no, there's no intent to be totally out of context. We have to.
Well, put it in context.
It's being realistic, and that brings us to a really
Hey,
good.
that's realistic. Is that context?
You're bringing us to a really good point, which is really the effort that we have to be looking for. Is that the answer is all very local communities.
Well, charity is local.
That's correct, and so when what happens though is that there is going to come a time, and we're going to have to address. What kind of government do we want to have, and what kind of expectations we have?
We've already decided that we've got a republic, so we need to work to build on the republic.
There has been a cyclical shift that's happened, and we could talk about. E. Michael Jones talks about 3 different republics and a 4th emergent republic. My theory speculates that there have been 7 different republics that we've had, and these all are a reflective overall belief system of Americans, how they view government.
Sure.
In the context of how they view it. So, in the strongest sense of the word, right? Churches, the parishes. As a Catholic, we set them up locally, just like Frederick the Great did in Europe. You shouldn't have to walk more than a mile to your local Catholic church, right? That's how it was set up, and that's how it was. Up in New Jersey, you couldn't walk a mile in any direction, northeast or south or west, without.
Well, with 40,000 denominations, you're not going to have that expanse of the kind of Christianity that reveals the truth as it does in the Roman Catholic Church. So we've got to focus on supporting the fundamental structure that we have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But in the larger sense of the word, we do have so how do you reach the people that believe in hyper-government? How do you address the people that believe in government control? Again, going back to the school board issues and the stuff that are going on locally in Maine, how do you address a person that wants government to fix everything for them? I mean, and you cannot find an elected official who does not look at himself as an administrator. That the purpose of government has actually changed. It went from a protector of rights to a provider, from the nationalist shift, which is under Lincoln, Clay, and these other guys, to the progressive shift under the Merriam, Charles Merriam, Woodrow Wilson, Frank Goodenow, guys like that. Then you had the shift after that was to the welfare shift, under Wilson and more, Franklin Roosevelt. And then from that, you had from there you have the progressive, not the progressive, but the technocratic shift. And that starts with with Richard Nixon, and continues on till to today when it's bipartisan. It's Trump, Biden, it doesn't matter. They're all administrators. And so we have that's why it's, we were talking before the show. Why have suddenly a large group of people become okay with Trump going from city to city to city, doing, and rounding them up, saying the cities are evil? So it masked the real issue. It masked the issue that somewhere along the line, those cities have become okay with certain levels of evil.
And that's a reality.
Yeah, that's a reality. We have a large group of politicians that do believe that, that they're not going to punish certain levels of theft. That's been changed. I mean, what is it? $1,000? If you don't steal more than $1,000, you're not going to go to jail for any reason.
Right. You're not going to get arrested.
You could assault people. I mean, under the first Trump administration, broke my heart to watch Trump supporters being beaten up, reviled, just because of who they were. And that's the world we're in right now, for at least for some people, not for us as Christians, not for us as Catholics, but as people in America. There are certain value systems that have been put in place, and they're there, and we have to figure out how to remove those value systems. So,
well, where do we fit in all of this? I think we've got to start local, and the reason why I wanted to dedicate some time to share this with you is to see if there's a spark that we can ignite by working together. First of all, having a podcast, having a sessions like this, perhaps maybe once or twice a week, and begin to build, get a consensus. Everything starts with a consensus.
Well,
that's what the apostles did.
I hope I don't keep interrupting you. Well, I want you to be excited about one thing that we're working on, and I'm trying to get some state legislators interested in this. Is for everything evil offers, we have to have a counter offer. And the counter offer to evil is obviously Jesus Christ. But for our local action, we could start creating, instead of having sustainable communities, which is what the globalists have offered, is we can have self-reliant communities based on Christian charity. And
right.
And so one of the things that we're trying to have a conversation about, and I'm hoping that we're sparking this here, and I think it is being sparked, is what would a Christian civilization look like? Now, the Catholics have already answered this. We had a Christian civilization before the Protestant Reformation. Distributism is a real, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the works of Hilaire Belloc or
sure, of course, absolutely,
Chesterton on distributism.
Sure.
So we have to have that discussion about, because if you talk to people about feeding the poor, oh, well, you're a communist. Protecting the tree. Well, yeah, I believe I'm a custodian of God's green earth. We have to start reestablishing and reaffirming the Christian values that existed way before time. We are custodians of this earth. We don't own it.
Well, if we haven't started yet, we definitely need to get underway.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got to. I mean, well, you're an involved Catholic in a very old.
Well, I'm married. I have a spouse. I have 9 children. I have 40 grandchildren, and they're all doing what you're talking about. So why wouldn't I not want to reflect on what actually is there rather than the dark hole that you seem to paint?
The dark, well,
it's dark. If you were sitting here, you would hear a darkness that has no light.
Oh, there's plenty of light, but the fact is
let's talk about it. Let's talk about that light.
We have to look at the common reality of how people think, and
that's your common reality. It's not mine.
And I've been in politics for a very, very long time.
I've been a lot in politics.
Right now, I deal with 5 states, and I see a common thread of thinking.
You're an agent in 5 states. That doesn't make you an agent of change.
I'm not saying I'm not trying to be an agent of change. Stop making this personal. All I'm trying to say to you is that I see common thought processes, common belief systems that exist amongst a lot of different people. And
they're working and living outside the Christian faith. Outside the Catholic Christian faith.
Making a living out. What do you mean by that?
Well, they're working outside that. If you don't see what you're talking about as being the existential threat that should be rebuffed, then what part of society are you working with?
I do believe that. I do believe that we do have an existential threat, and that's why we have to. Have you ever read The Summa Contra Gentiles by Thomas Aquinas? Yeah, if you haven't,
I've read a lot about Freedom on a Soul. I've read Thomas Aquinas. I haven't read everything.
You have to be able to talk to the heathen nations. You have to be you have to be able to have a conversation with the common man, and you have to be able to talk in the language.
Sure, absolutely, sure.
Right? And so you have, and when you're presenting to people, you can't go up to a person and say, "Hey, you have to follow the Constitution," and now, and you have to do this, and this is the way government. You can't, because to them, their universe is a known quantity.
Well, all right, but I'm going to put that in perspective, because this is. I feel like I'm sitting at Bates College, listening to a professor who. I have to be very careful here, because you're defining the forces that exist in society, but you've got to take them in context with how you live as an individual. If you can paint a picture that's overwhelmingly dark of what's happening in society today, but if you're not living in existence with a specific, if your life doesn't have a specific cause and effect, you're not bringing about change. And I think that's what we have to do. You've got to take it. You have to. Well, you can turn his volume down. If I'm talking too loud, you can turn the volume down. My wife says I'm talking too loud.
You're fine. I'm hard of hearing, so it's wonderful for me. I
am with the left ear.
It's actually, I embrace it. So
yeah, but you things have to start at the beginning.
That's where we have to start. We have to start with how we got to this worldview, and that's what I'm doing. So in the end,
but I don't share your worldview. I think it's out of context.
The
It's totally
entity.
out of context. All you've defined
I
is
don't
the
know.
darkness, but you haven't defined the light.
Okay, so have you looked at the news lately? Have you seen the mayhem that's happening in our streets? Have you?
Of course I do. Sure.
Okay, so this isn't out of context, but
But I can't go out and change that
of
as a
course you
matter of practice.
and it always and this is what Fulton Sheen said is that there would be no wars in mankind if there weren't wars in the hearts of men to begin with.
Exactly. Very good.
So you have to find out why that war is happening to people, and it's
Sure.
happening for very real reasons. It's very real, and so,
Yeah.
but in the end, you have what we're offering, we're bringing to people is Christ light, Christ charity,
Sure.
and that's what solves this. That's what reemerges Christendom. In the end, we have to teach people that it's you and me helping our neighbor in any small way that we possibly can.
Absolutely. That's what happens. It starts with taking on a state in life, assuming a role in state, defining your state in life and going about doing God's will. Right.
And you're going to see that. You're going to see emerging communities. There's going to always be the political.
Oh, I'm seeing them now. I'm seeing them very, very much alive and active. There's never been a fast.
I'm talking about emerging communities. We're talking about people actually creating farms for the sole purpose of sustaining and supporting themselves in Christian charity. You know, where people can be self-reliant. Well, I'll tell you one of the things we did down in my church, Paul, and you'll like this. Oftentimes, we want to talk about rehabilitating people. Well, there's most people in America aren't even habilitated. You could see it. Just turn on the news. They don't even know. They act like animals. They act like animals because they don't know how to take care of themselves, right? Well, how do you?
There is a similarity. I wouldn't say that they act like animals. I think that's an overreaction. That's an exaggeration. But they're not living according to the natural order.
You act like an animal is when you live outside your purpose for which God intended you. And so you live as if.
Well, there are other definitions of acting like an animal.
Well, so what you do is you help people find what's valuable to them. So what my church did, that church down in Florida, is that we gave people, we gave them a skill set. If they came into the church, young men, and they didn't know how to support themselves, that was the first thing that we did. We said, what do you know how to do? Oh, and they would give you a list. Well, what have you ever done in your life? It doesn't matter how small or insignificant. We'd sit with them, and then that person. So what we created was a self-reliant community of skilled men, families. With much bigger than yours, by the way. Yours is a very tiny family for a Catholic. I'm very disappointed. No, I'm kidding with you. 9 kids, but I mean, we had.
No, I knew you were kidding.
We had like 14 families with like 15 children, and so the reason for and obviously that's a good thing. But what was really exciting about it is, like, I worked with some young men as well, and we teach people skills. We did granite restoration, painting, plumbing, carpentry.
All these things are very good. There's no question, and there's a lot of wisdom in that.
And so when we start creating these communities, and we will do it. It's happening now. First, we have to start out. Again, this goes back to this idea, that what has been the successful talking point of the globalists and the Democrats, for instance, is that they always provide the food. They're always providing the basics, the first of that hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy, food, shelter, water. And then what they do, they provided them with the higher goals,
that is one way of doing it. It's certainly not the only way, but it's certainly one way of doing it, bringing about change.
They've been very successful because the people are willing to accept a apex type of thinking if all their needs are provided for. So, but this is one of the reasons, and why Catholicism is the enemy of the Catholic Church, and vice versa, because they are simply trying to replace what the Catholic Church has always done. We have to provide for the
and they're failing. They're failing at that. There's no question about it. They're failing.
And we can, yeah, and they are. And so what the point is, so we have to continue with this, and we have to continue this conversation that.
Hey, I can.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
That's okay. I haven't said a word. It's been 34 minutes, so I'm going to say a word now. So to your point, the point that both of you are making, I think, in a sense, this has been great, by the way. Iron sharpens iron. And I was raised by a bureaucrat, so when two men are going at it like this, I get all like, oh, what's good? And I'm sure many of us do, right? Because one of the things that's been taken away from us is men who speak their mind in the moment, in the instant. And so this has been wonderful for me. You two guys going at it head to head, and we're headed toward a deeper understanding. I don't know if the clock is going to run long enough for us to get to that understanding, but let me just jump in here and add my 2 cents, which is
great, Mike.
Vladimir Putin. I think it was yesterday, spent 4 hours taking questions and offering a speech. I think his speech lasted almost an hour. Now, Russia threw off communism 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, because they dissolved the Soviet Union, which was a communist nation, communist region of the world that controlled many nations. And they dissolved Russia dissolved the Soviet Union, and they went on to become a legally Christian nation.
Yeah.
And so Putin,
and that's not a joke either.
And most Americans don't even know that. They don't. They still think, but Russia is like legally Christian.
Yeah,
100% Christian.
Yeah.
It says we're Christian. We're a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that they're perfect? And does that mean that Vladimir Putin should serve forever? 20 years, I think is his term. Whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can criticize about Russia or any other nation. But the point I want to make is that Putin yesterday observed that geopolitics is changing in the sense that, Matt, you'll appreciate this, classical physics is being replaced by quantum mechanics, and he applies that assertion to politics, to geopolitics, and he does so with, from what I could see, I haven't done a deep dive on it yet, but he does so with a great deal of aplomb and understanding and awareness, it seems to me, of concepts that are still beyond me, especially quantum mechanics, I'm sorry. But classical physics, I'm starting to gain a little bit of little bit of an understanding. But all this to say, what's been happening for the last 30 some minutes has got to start happening a lot publicly. This has got to start.
Was a Catholic. He was a very devout Catholic. And
who was
Werner Heisenberg, and he was the father of quantum physics and I mean, by the way, for your audience there, and I hope Paul feels the same way. My Catholic friends and I, this is how we talk, and there's never any hard feelings. So we just times it's just people yelling at each other.
Certainly not. But there's no need for hard feelings here.
Oh,
but
no.
You've got to build your house on solid rock, not on sand. You can feed and clothe the world in a moment. And I understand if you want to feed a man, teach him how to fish. Don't give him a slice of bread. Teach him how to fish.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah, you got. We don't win if we've got to build your house on solid rock,
and it's got to be unity in the church, unity in Christ. We work for that, and then you build. I've been a part of these. What do you want to call it? These gardens the community gardens. They last for about 3, 4, 5 years, and then they fall, and then they start and they fall. I had one in Florida. I lived about 7 years, 6 or 7 years in Florida as a single man before I even married, and these things have come and gone, and will continue to come and go. What I'm really impressed with, though, are the individuals who live at the core of Christ's teachings, marry, have a family, and their gardens last forever.
Yeah.
They last forever.
Well, we're working on it. I'm working on it. I'm hoping that some things change around for me so that we can create some communities. I think you have people on right now that are working on these as well. We are going to get there, and we're still for my purposes. I never try to, and you don't know me super well, Paul. I think you know, but I never speak to as if though I'm in the presence of the choir. I always speak as if though I'm in the presence of the people.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, I'm comfortable with it. I think Mike did say iron sharpens iron.
But we're older. I think it's more like tin. It's more like probably or aluminum. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, look, we've got to teach first by powerful teacher of all is to teach by example. We've got to set the example and teach by example. I never told my children to go out and have as many children as they can. I never once in my life ever said that. But by example, apparently they said, hey, it might work for me. And thankfully, and it's not a brag really, I'm just stupefied at how well they're doing it. I've got a son in Pennsylvania, and I've got two there, so I'm not going to tell you which one I'm talking about. And he's got 7 beautiful children. He, more than any of his brothers and sisters, has got the most children. He nails down a really, really good job. He's public relations for UPMC, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. That's a huge climb for him. And he's gone on now to another entity. He's working for another healthcare professional organization, corporation. And he's carrying the biggest load. Every Friday, when he gets paid, his pay is gone because it provides a Catholic education for all his children. His wife has an online business, so she's hard at work with him. But he's doing what his brothers and sisters are doing. Their house is built on solid rock. Their theology is not confused. Their doctrine is clear and they understand it. They're graduates of some of the best liberal arts colleges in the country. You build your house on solid rock. Okay, you don't build it in darkness. Don't build it in the confusion of a world that doesn't know which direction is up. And that's where it has to begin. That's where the conversation has to begin. Now, I'd like you to explain to me, if you could, what is quantum physics?
Mechanics.
Quantum mechanics. What is quantum mechanics?
Well, as much as I've read, and I'm just going to give you the roughly thing is that that the fact that the observable universe changes the minute you observe it. That in anything that it's in other words, you don't ever observe anything exactly as it is in real time. I'm going to give you that in a nutshell. So you use a microscope to look at a cell. The mechanisms by which you're using to look at that microscope or that thing it changes whatever the instrument you're using. So in other words, this is a great breakthrough, because this is why I talked about Galileo, because the church rejected Galileo because of his scientific determinism.
Seemingly they did, yeah.
Right, and scientific determinism has destroyed the world, because it has turned man or human scientists into like a priestly class, to the point where we're at where people say trust the science. Sure. That's trust the science is the logical out.
Yeah.
Right. So that's Galileo action. Trust the science.
The favorite line, Matt, is, well, if God exists, why doesn't he talk to me?
Right. Well, and I run into people all the time. They'll you start talking to them about Christianity and what our duties are as Christians, and it's all moral relativism. Like, well, God wouldn't be that strict. That was how God wanted it back then, and now the church has to change, and that the church is something that should mutate over time to adjust itself to people. And not only has that changed, and this is what the point of this is, how we start, is that it didn't just start with moral relativism. It's changed into, well, maybe the church had it wrong about purity. Maybe the church had it wrong about usury. Think about all the laws there are against things of lust, that can't rape people, can't, attack somebody's dog and kill it and eat it. We have all these great laws. We have no conscripts in our country about greed. There are none, but in the Catholic Church, there was. Usury was illegal. Capitalism was not allowed. Capitalism, we look at capitalism in America as the be and end all. You can just, as long as you can buy, that's what people will protect, and that's what.
No, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Not sustainable. There you go.
So let me jump in and quote Putin yesterday in answer to your. Maybe this will help, Paul. Today's world is an exceptionally complex, multifaceted system. To properly describe and comprehend it, simple laws of logic, cause and effect relationships, and the patterns arising from them are insufficient. And then he concludes, what is needed here is a philosophy of complexity, something akin to quantum mechanics, which is wiser and in some ways more complex than classical physics. Can you imagine Donald Trump ever saying something like that? I don't know.
Well,
I doubt it. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
Aren't we like America, that like all Russians are either spies or atheists and, eat borscht, we're just, and then you meet people from Russia, or you meet, I worked down in DC for a little bit, and meeting people from other countries was just, eye-opening, because, you don't realize how prejudiced you are to the entire universe around you. Like these are Christians all over the world, and and we can't hear their voices either. So this is the thing. We have to reach out to each other in Christian charity. And honestly, I don't care. I care about doctrine at a certain level with people when I talk to other denominations. However, I think in most ways we have a lot more in common doctrinally than we don't. And those are the things
I would agree. Yeah.
We need to just approach those things first. Nobody believes that we should let people starve to death. However, there are some people that want to build bombs first because they think that somehow that has a priority. And then if you say that you want to feed the poor, then suddenly you're a communist of some kind, or a socialist of some kind, or a tree hugger.
Well, what's happening in the real world, Bill, based on Putin's leadership in the East, because of course Russia is the bridge for Europe from west to east, always has been, always will be, because of where it's located.
Sure.
He's been pivoting away from the West. He's been leading Russia away from the West for obvious reasons. I mean, look what's happening in Ukraine, and look at the attitude of the United States, which to me hasn't made any sense since Gorbachev. I mean, Gorbachev appeared to me to be reaching out sincerely to try to build a bridge to the West. And then, of course,
Perestroika. Yeah.
And then the Soviet Union collapsed after him, or during him, whatever. And then Putin rose to power. And now Putin, and we are forcing it. It's not like, there's any competition here. We're forcing him into the arms of China, which is to the east. Yeah. And so we're pushing Russia from the West, where it could be Western. It could be, in fact, ever since Peter the Great, right? It's been drawn to the West. And now what makes us so stupid today that we think we should force Russia into the arms of China? It makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It was never intended to make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be better at our public relations with our public officials. I love how Putin always shows up on your social media feed with holding a puppy, or like riding a horse or something like that, or fishing with some old people. I mean, his public image is always amazing.
It is amazing. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
We have, and our public image is that we're this we have this dominating worldview that, I mean, the world sees us as this kind of, as a kind of a cancer. And that's unfortunate, because we're not. Most Americans are not that way. And I find friends that
I don't agree with that last comment you just made, how the world sees us.
Well, I run into a lot of people from other countries that view America that way. So let's just say that on social media and how they talk to
us.
I've been for 30 years. So this is general in speaking. Capitalism is a type of cancer. Capitalism is state-sponsored usury. That's a Catholic doctrine, and many people believe that throughout the world. They look at America as, they don't see our charity first. They see our world dominance first. That's what they see, and I'm not, again, I don't like that, but it's something that we as Americans can change. And the more we begin to interact with this worldview, that
what would you like? Would you like socialism?
what would I like?
What other system would you prefer besides capitalism?
I told you earlier what I would prefer: distributism, and a more Catholic version of socialism.
Well, we can have a Catholic version of capitalism without usury.
There is no Catholic version of capitalism. Capitalism is not a Catholic concept.
You're talking like capitalism is sinful?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact,
So if you make an item and you sell it for a profit, that's sinful?
Capitalism, though. So now we're going to have a discussion.
Well, it's a part of capitalism.
It that you've read Catholic doctrine, but I'm not seeing the evidence of that in this discussion. So what I would suggest before you go forward is spend more time reading Hilaire Belloc and Catholic Apologists on economics.
I've read Belloc. I've read all of that.
And you need to go back and revisit, because
capitalism,
the idea of buying and selling freely is not capitalism. That's not what we're talking about. That's just buying and selling. That's called free trade. That's people interacting with each other, but that's not capitalism. This is a different concept. And so we'll go.
Yes, but where do you find that concept? Where do you find it?
Where do you find capitalism?
Besides being in between two pages, where do you find it?
You find capitalism in the emergence of with the emergence.
I know where you find capitalism, but where do you find this?
Let me say that it doesn't start until after the Protestant Reformation, when the banks and the tithing is turned over to the state. That's when it happens.
I believe that the federal government has the right to coin and issue its own money. Okay.
Right.
Free of the burden of debt.
Absolutely right. We can create our own money. And again, that goes back to the Catholic charity that we talked about. Let's buy and sell with each other freely without giving, because every time you spend the cash that's in your pocket, if you've read The Creature from Jekyll Island, it causes you the debt to go up. Yeah. So again, the problem always goes back, the solution always goes back to Christian charity. How we can buy and sell and trade.
Absolutely. I believe unequivocally in Christian charity.
Yeah. So we can buy and sell and trade with each other without this intermediary, this World Bank. And that's the answer. So it always
capitalism, how we have experienced it over the last 100, 150, 200 years has led to the concentration by law, by the allowance of law, has led to the concentration of capital in fewer and fewer and fewer hands. And that's part capitalism, part of the reason that we have this problem right now with a detached oligarchy, global oligarchy, that is consolidating its ownership over capital. For example, Larry Ellison with Oracle is making a move right now to further consolidate the owners of all media in the West down. I think it's held by 6 corporations right now, and Ellison was just given basically to purchase TikTok, and there's talk of him snatching up CBS and others. So I don't know where we're going to end up. We're going to go from 6 to less than 6, I suppose, owners of all media properties in America. And capitalism has encouraged, if not allowed, that to happen. It's obviously not working. It's obviously being used against not just the people of America, but the people of the world. And the big reason for that is capitalism.
Have you ever heard of social credit, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
The writings of Louis Stephen.
Yeah. Dr. Jones was just at one of their meetings up in Canada.
Right.
I think.
Rougemont.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I don't know anything about it, but I remember I saw him mention that.
Yeah.
There's a good book that everybody should read. It's called Money Manipulation in the Social Order by Father Fahey. And it tells you that capitalism creates communism. Socialism creates communism. And we've been taught in the West that it's the opposite of that. And we have to question that worldview. That's all I'm saying. Let's question the worldview as to...
I've always questioned it. I just had a tenant I rented an apartment to that was worth $1,200. I charged them $600 a month, because that was the exchange I felt. So I practice what you're talking about, but I'm living in a society that has capitalism as its primary means of exchange. You can't deal in this society without the use of capitalism.
Well, yeah, but we're not talking about people being able to give each other money and use different mediums, this piece of paper or this pencil as mediums of exchange. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the unregulated amassing of wealth. And so if we had a guy that was capturing children, which we do have, or making slaves all of a sudden, we would have a law. There's a law against it, but we have no laws against greed. And that in a Catholic society, in a Christian society,
well, we have moral laws against greed.
We would have moral laws against greed, and all societies.
Well, we do have moral laws against greed.
Well, then Larry Ellison shouldn't exist, and Elon Musk would.
But he's not practicing the moral law. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to say that what we're talking about is it's interesting that when you look at the fact that we've accepted capitalism as something that it's really not. We're not talking about two people, you and I, exchanging things with each other to buy whatever. I'm going to sell you a cow and you're going to sell me a chicken or whatever. I'm talking about the fact that we have a worldview, we have a way of thinking as Americans that puts us into full control of a private bank. When we go to work, our money is extracted us from in taxes, and when that's not enough, and we're done, we believe they're going to they created these places for us to shop that are all owned by Vanguard, BlackRock.
Yes, but you have to have a system in place in order to do that. You have to have a system in place in order to do that.
Right, and the system in place is Catholic. The system in place is Christian charity. We don't let.
That's the moral law.
That's the moral law. So that's what we're all going back to in this entire conversation. Is again by practice and stuff like that. The wealth of the purpose of wealth is to provide and to make God's kingdom better and to make it, to honor God. And that's the purpose. If wealth has a purpose, that's the purpose, not to make better shopping centers or bigger stadiums for people to go.
Well, we need distribution centers.
What's that?
We need distribution centers.
We need, and that's what the monasteries were. That's what the monasteries were. They were a place. It's natural. Like I knew a bunch of guys. I don't know if you heard of the Golgotha monasteries out on the Orkney Islands, north of Scotland. They were rediscovered. They were abandoned like the 600.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
600 AD, and then the Redemptorist Fathers are out there. And so these guys, within the space of 5 years, were producing so much wealth that they were able to rebuild like every building on that island. And now they have regular visitors coming in. And that's what's going to happen when a small group of guys like me, you, and Mike, I don't know if we could, but or any small community, we can create wealth for the community very easily if that's the whole purpose of our existence. So anyway.
Good.
So there are Catholic, there are answers to all this, I hope I didn't.
This has been.
Oh, sorry.
No, this has been great. But we've been going for an hour, so I think I'm gonna.
Well, I didn't know I was so much fun with you today, Paul. You are a very great man. I've always admired.
Well, I don't try to flatter me because
I'm just telling you.
You're being complimentary, and I appreciate it. But I think you've got to build a foundation for all that we do here. The foundation is needed, whether it's the home or a distribution system for food. Interestingly enough, we have Bishop Madore. You might be interested in this. He lived out of a food truck when he was in Rhode Island, and he was assigned as local ordinary for the Diocese of Portland, and he brought his food truck with him. It's parked right down the street at Holy Family Parish, and every day they go out with the food truck, and that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. And they rely on the benevolence of lay Catholic faithful who live in the community and who worship at Holy Family, a Roman Catholic Church. That's what they do. So, it's very close to home. And I think the same thing's happening in Portland. He's got a food truck in Portland. He's doing the same thing. So the Catholic Church we have to have unity. And right now, as I said, there's over 40,000 denominations. when I started saying that, there were like 20,000 25 years ago. Now there's 40,000. We're headed in we're headed in the absolutely wrong direction. Rather than building unity, we're creating disunity. It's what we've been good at doing, you know.
Well, expect more of this going down the road here. Should God provide the resources necessary for the three of us continue. I've offered my time to both men to produce individual live streams, and Paul's produced one, and Matt's produced two. So if you're interested, you can follow me. You can follow my YouTube channel. You can go to my website, michaelheath.org, and you can subscribe to an email there. And I'll probably start mentioning in that email when these guys are going to be live streaming. And my ultimate hope would be that their live streams would become a thing online enough so that they're on their own, and that it's producing a community of its own, a conversation of its own, that will lead Maine, especially Maine, but whoever wants to tune in because of the nature of the internet, would lead us in a more positive direction in the direction of the moral law. Go ahead.
On that note, we ought to have a conversation on what we can do locally in addition to what Matthew just stated. Yes, we have to. Yes, we need a system of distribution that's. But regarding, we've got a legislative year coming up. What energy can we apply in that direction to try to have an election that will produce positive results?
That's a really great question. And I am so honored to be able to say for that, do a live stream, man, and you too, Matt, and I'll do one, and then we'll come together and we'll invite others to come together. The world has never had this opportunity that we now have to communicate our ideas in live.
We need to make a difference. If we don't, we're not going to be victims any longer. We're going to be patients.
Yeah, right.
Of an economic system and a political system that's gone really belly up.
Well, I'm very hopeful because I see fruit every single day, multiple times a day, in my own life through what I see on this big screen in front of me here in my garage. All over the world, I see fruit. I see people talking a lot more about love, about the things, Christian charity, the things we've been talking about here today for the last hour. I'm seeing it every day. And I'm seeing it.
And so am I. I am. That was my point earlier on.
And I'm seeing it in surprising expressions. For example, with respect to money and economy, the whole. I'm not advising anybody to do this, but if you want to do it, start exposing yourself to some of these younger men and older men and women who are teaching themselves the whole Bitcoin world and what's happened in the last 17, 18 years since that arrived in our economy, in our global economy. So, for example, right now, Bitcoin, it was worth $109,000 per Bitcoin yet 2 days ago. Right now, it's worth $122,256. And one of the reasons people are concerned about it is because of the volatility, which is a legitimate concern. But part of the reason people are concerned about that is because they're not thinking of Bitcoin according to its fundamentals. It's not an asset. It was designed to be currency. And you can't even really begin to wrap your mind around the distinction.
So you can't own Bitcoin. You can only
the whole point is the whole point of Bitcoin is that you own it. There's
right.
no,
but it's not not an asset.
There's no other custody. So I mean, there's scams. I was talking to somebody today who may have lost $40,000. They called me, a good friend of mine called me today. It's very dangerous. That's why I'm hesitating and talking about it. But at the same time,
Matthew, do you use Bitcoin? Matt?
Do I use Bitcoin?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Have you looked into it at all?
A little bit, very little. I'm looking more into other systems that I'd rather not talk about right now.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not bringing it up to say you should or shouldn't. I'm bringing it up to say that what I'm finding as I study it is a kind of what we're talking about here: Christian charity, the moral law, people having families, young people wanting to have children, starting to talk about having more children. These kind of things are happening around this idea of Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying. Not
Right.
saying you should do it, not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying.
Right.
And
No,
if
no,
you're gonna,
I wanted to get a consensus.
and if you're thinking of doing anything else, like any other cryptocurrency, or you're thinking about stable coins that's being pushed by the United States or central bank digital currencies, I'll be talking a lot about these things in the future. So you need to stay away from stable coins, CBDCs, all the other digital. If you're going to think about any digital transactions of value, the only thing I would advise you to be thinking about is Bitcoin. Don't be thinking about nothing else.
Okay.
No others, crypto coins, Ethereum, no nothing, none of that.
I appreciate that. That's what I love about him. He's always clear about what he has to say, and there's no about what he just said right now.
I feel so bad for my friend who just called me, and I had to give him the bad news. And there's no getting it back.
What put you in a position where you gave him the bad news? How come you didn't know? He wasn't doing his own Bitcoin?
No, it was he got scammed. He got scammed.
Oh, wow.
40 grand.
Wow.
Might as well just gone. So you got to be very, very careful. There's a lot of hype around cryptocurrencies. A lot of hype. Do not listen. Don't buy any hype from anybody anymore. Please don't buy any hype. If it sounds like it's too good to be true, like the government, You
mean social media won't protect you?
Yeah,
that was a joke.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyway, we've gone over an hour, and we'll be doing it again. And like I say, you can sign up for the email, michaelheath.org. You can go to the YouTube channel. You can go to michaelheath.tv and keep up with these guys and pray for them that they'll find their chops to do regular live streams. And
I love it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks a lot for your time and for your thoughts and your energy. It's good. It takes a conversation that requires a little bit of grit, but we can't continue to doing what we're doing because that's the definition of insanity.